Hello friends, this is Worm, and yes, I still exist, and I'm back from my little vacation, so let's jump right into the subject matter of today, which is an episode of Exotic Recrafting, and I do have to give a shout out here to Broderick Foster for bringing this exotic to my attention, because I genuinely forgot that it exists in Destiny 2. The exotic in question is Truth, which is a launcher, rocket launcher, in the power slot, heavy slot, whatever, does void damage. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Truth, because I like I said, I genuinely forgot that this exotic exists in Destiny 2, because if I remembered it, it would have been the first episode. The first episode we did Mida, which I feel like Mida probably didn't deserve the very first episode. Truth definitely deserved the first episode. But what is Truth and what does it do? Of course, Truth is a void exotic rocket launcher. And it has, I guess technically 3 exotic perks, but its intrinsic trait is called Prototype Truth Seeker. Basically, it states that the weapon has tracking and you hold ADS to lock on. Its unique perk is Horseshoes and Grenades, or Grenades and Horseshoes, I can't remember the order. Basically states that rockets fired from Truth will detonate when they're in close proximity to an enemy, so you don't actually have to hit your target, you just have to get the rocket close to them. And then finally, there's a hidden perk on Truth, which in Destiny 1 is called Tripod, but basically it allows the rocket to have 3 rockets in the magazine. So every time you reload, so long as you have the appropriate amount of ammo, you will have 3 rockets in the magazine. Let's talk about the intrinsic trait, because this is honestly one of the most sad and terrible, quite frankly, terrible traits in the game. Its intrinsic trait, what's it called? Prototype Truth Seeker, Prototype Truth Seeker literally states that it has tracking and you hold ADS to log on. Now, I want to point out here, precision frame rocket launchers exist and tracking exists as a perk on other launchers. I believe that Apex Predator, for example, you can put tracking on it. So we have an exotic weapon whose intrinsic trait is the same intrinsic trait that comes on legendary rocket launchers and is the same as a perk that you can get on legendary rocket launchers. Like, that is really, really depressing. And maybe I'm crazy here, but Truth came, I want to say in season 8, which was Season of Opulence. And in Season of Opulence, we didn't have many tracking launchers, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I don't think there are that many tracking launchers, so it kind of made sense back in the day. But here we are now, and this exotic intrinsic trait is literally, you can get it on legendary rockets. Any legendary rocket is probably going to serve you better. But moving on from there, we'll talk about grenades and horseshoes, or horseshoes and grenades. I don't remember the order, like I said, but with grenades and horseshoes, and this is the perk, in my opinion, that gives it that exotic flavor, because horseshoes and grenades states when a rocket is near an enemy, it will detonate. So this is basically proxy rockets, right? Proximity rockets. Proximity grenades on grenade launchers, you get it close enough, it'll detonate near an enemy. Won't kill them typically, unless they're really low resilience, but with Truth, of course, you will. You don't have to hit your target. And that's really, in my opinion, where the flavor comes from Truth. Because if it didn't have that, I mean, it would see 0 usage whatsoever. But then, of course, we have Tripod. Tripod, I guess, is just a nice little cherry on top. The reason why Truth is so down low in terms of usage and why nobody uses Truth is because it really, I mean, it's been outshined in every area of the game. Naturally, due to its perks, Truth lends itself as a PvP weapon. We have so many PvE launchers that are just tremendously better. We have Galahorn in the same slot. We have, outside the rocket launcher category, we have things like Sleeper Simulant, which is fantastic. We have, within the rocket launcher category, things like Eyes of Tomorrow, Leviathan's Breath, not in the rocket category, but still in the heavy category. We have a bunch of weapons that fill in these spots. Why would you want to use Truth? Why would you want to use an exotic that has tracking and proximity rockets on it over something like Galahorn? Because Galahorn, and actually fun little mini fact for you, Galahorn used to have proxy rockets. but then they took it out. At any rate, it doesn't lend itself as a PvE weapon because there are just so many better PvE options. Naturally, Truth falls into the PvP category, but even there, it is struggling. And let's just talk about why Truth, I think, struggles so hard. Outside of the fact that its intrinsic trait is just so weak, and you can get it on literally just legendary rockets, PvP meta does not lend itself to rocket launcher usage. If you're playing PvP and you are any sort of knowledgeable, competent PvP player, chances are you're using a grenade launcher, because grenade launchers are incredibly powerful right now. And grenade launchers are super powerful. You can get proxy grenades on it so that you don't have to hit your targets. You just land close to them and it'll detonate, and if not kill, it'll almost kill your enemy. Or maybe depending on the frame that you have, it'll kill your enemy. You get 3 grenades, so that's at least 3 kills if you're skilled with it, potentially more if you have grouped up enemies. Rockets, you get 1. You get 1 rocket. And that 1 rocket, yes, it will be better in a situation like you got four enemies on a flag, for example. Yeah, a rocket's gonna do better in that situation, but let's be honest, when was the last time you saw 4 people capturing a flag, especially when heavy was up on the field? My answer, I don't know, like never. I don't, like, that rarely happens. Like typically when there's 4 of us approaching a flag, 3 people will just screw off and do their own thing, and then I'm left to cap it by myself. Or somebody else will cap it and I will go off and do my own thing, because yeah, that's just what Destiny 2 players do, I guess. With that being said though, Truth is not really in the best of spots. Now, also, its intrinsic trait here, Prototype Truth Seeker, gives it tracking. Tracking on rocket launchers in the Crucible is not very good, okay? And the reason why it's not good is because, I mean, think about it. If you're locked onto somebody with a rocket, how difficult is it for them to walk, literally strafe left or right, jump up, you know, slide under your rocket or around your rocket, and just completely avoid damage by the rockets? That, in my opinion, definitely has something to do. You can still use Blink to get out of the way of a Truth rocket. And mind you, we'll talk about Destiny 1 Truth a little bit when we get to the improvements that Truth needs to have. But tracking on launchers in the Crucible is not a good thing to have. It's not a good idea. It's not good in any regard, because you can easily miss. Most players would rather use something with maybe impulse amplifier so that rocket travels faster, and just shoot the ground where your enemy is. Or maybe shoot the wall behind your enemy. Not aim at your enemy, lock onto them, and try to track them. Now granted, Truth does have grenades and horseshoes, which does help with that a little bit, but at the same time, it doesn't make up for the lackluster situation that Truth has. And finally, of course, Tripod, the hidden perk, doesn't do anything in PvE because you can only pick up 1 rocket at a time, which is absolutely crazy. Now, how can we make Truth better? And I saw Broderick's comment yesterday or the day before, whatever day it was, and I was just thinking of a bunch of different ways. Actually, I'm gonna pull up his comment here because he actually did leave a comment with his own, sorry, that was really bright, with his own idea. But the first thing I think the easiest thing Bungie could do, bring back the intrinsic trait or the exotic trait from Truth in Destiny 1, because Truth in Destiny 1 was insane. If I can remember, I'll put a clip up of its tracking capabilities. But in Destiny 1, Truth's exotic perk stated that rockets fired from this weapon track aggressively. And when I say aggressively, I kid you not. You would shoot a rocket, and if somebody dodged it, it would go up in a loop, come back around if the map was big enough, all the way full circle, and go back and hit them. It was absolutely incredible. I was gonna say crazy and incredible at the same time, but it was absolutely, I mean, it was amazing. And Bungie, for some reason, took that out. And I don't recall if Bungie ever stated why, but they did. And I think probably the reason why they did that is because of the fact that players use it in Gambit. And another reason why we don't like Gambit. Oh, let me read this real quick. Okay, sorry, I was reading over that here, but Broderick Foster's idea was basically to give Truth some type of like nuking capability. And the way he puts it here, I'll read it pound for or word for word. Maybe it could be like double in damage and designed to just nuke a target, but it has to charge before use, so you can't just reload and fire. Like it has a 10-second cooldown, but is equal to say 4 shots from Gallahorn. And of course, this isn't a bad idea. This isn't a bad idea by any means. You know, just what Broderick's trying to say is make it charge similar to maybe something like what is that sidearm? Devil's Row. You aim down sights, you charge it up, then you launch your rocket, and it hits for like quadruple damage. Like it absolutely obliterates targets. And then it goes on some type of little cooldown, so you can't just spam it, but turn it into maybe a champion nuking machine. That's what his idea here is. And honestly, that's a pretty decent idea. Truth has no other place. And if I'm not mistaken, there's not really any other like just nuclear options in Destiny 2. I mean, you have big DPS stuff. You have Leviathan's Breath, which has a bunch of DPS. You have, you know, Dragon's Breath, which currently does a massive amount of DPS. But Broderick is saying, like, you know, have a charge, you know, maybe you charge it up for 5 seconds instead of just 1 second like Devil's Rune. You charge it for 5 seconds, scope in on a target, shoot it. When that rocket hits that target, it absolutely destroys them. I'm talking, you know, one shot, a Grandmaster champion or something crazy like that. And I like that idea. Other ideas of how to improve Truth. I think we were talking a second ago and I just kind of forgot that we were, but give it the aggressive tracking that it had in Destiny 1. Give it the ability to literally 360 in the sky, like, ooh, a little roller coaster, boom, hit the target. I don't know why Bungie got rid of that. And I saw a couple of testing videos. I was actually doing some research on this, but I saw a couple testing videos where people were testing D1 Truth versus D2 Truth. Try saying that 10 times fast. And D2 Truth, the rocket, like, just kind of, if you dodge it, it just kind of goes off in the distance, does its own thing wherever it's going. It doesn't do anything. D1, that circle, come back around, nail that Guardian. And we need that level of tracking back, because that's what made Truth really exotic in Destiny 1. I would say Truth was the best PvP rocket launcher in Destiny 1. And there were times when I would slap on Truth because I had 2 really good legendaries, and Truth would never ever fail to get you a kill. And its little hitbox, or its detection radius for its proximity detonation, was big. Like, it wasn't like proxy nades where, like, if you're, oh no, you're more than 1.5 meters away, like, it's not gonna detonate. No, like, Truth, it was like 3 or 4 meters. I don't know, I don't have exact testing, but it felt like 3 or 4 meters that rocket could miss and still detonate and kill a Guardian. Now, another idea that I had is we want to build into the idea of this tracking launcher. What if Bungie just enhanced the tracking to literally the next level? When you lock onto a Guardian, that rocket will literally track their movement, and it will track, like, I mean, we're talking hard 90-degree turns and stuff like that. Really, really fast, boom, and get a kill. Like, it's literally a free kill if you can lock onto a Guardian, because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to be a really cool tracking launcher. Let it do that. I mean, I've also thought of the idea of what if Bungie potentially gave it some sort of, you know, ability to track players behind walls. Like, you know, somebody is, you know, behind this wall or something like that. You ADS with Truth, it's void. You get true sight, true sight. You see where I'm going here? You get true sight, and then you can lock onto that player from behind the wall. Shoots the rocket, and it goes out, and it goes and it tracks that Guardian aggressively. If anybody ever played Gambit's, I say Gambit, Destiny 2 PvP at all, back in the days when Eyes of Tomorrow was not nerfed, like, that's the level of tracking that we want. But even stronger than that. Eyes of Tomorrow used to be absolutely insane with its tracking, and Bungie tuned it down a little bit, but that's what Truth needs. Truth needs the ability to really, really aggressively track its target. And not just the big, you know, 360 loop through the sky. I mean, I'm talking going around 90-degree turns, you know, going 180 around a wall. You know, you shoot somebody, rocket goes in the doorway, literally does a 180 turn, kills them on the other side of the wall. That's the kind of tracking I want to see from Truth. It's a PvP launcher. That's fine. You know, we'll talk about some PvE ideas to make it better, but that, you know, it's a PvP launcher. Let it do that. If you get heavy, you should be able to get literally, Truth should be a free kill because you can track somebody through a wall with the true sight situation, shoot a rocket, and the rocket will pass through all doorways, through any hallways, corridors, you know, blah, blah, blah. About the only thing that can stop the rocket is if the doorway is actually closed, like on Cauldron. And even then, if the doorway is closed, the rocket will go all the way on the outside of the map and track and kill said person. Bungie could also make it where the rocket doesn't actually detonate until it hits the target that you're tracking. But the rocket, as it's going, it can collateral people, similar to how Thunder Crash can. How cool would that be? Like, you know, somebody's sitting, 20 meters away. They're on the other side of a wall. They're kind of holed up, you know, in their little safety spot. So, okay, I lock onto it because I aim down sights with truth. I see where they are through the wall. So I'm like, okay, so I shoot the rocket, and the rocket goes to the right, and then it goes left, and then it goes under something, and then it goes over something, and then boom, it kills that person. But along the way, somebody was trying to come on a flank, so they ran through the doorway that the truth rocket was going through. Boom, that rocket wipes them out. It has to be, of course, like a direct hit, like a rocket literally goes through them, but still, that would be such a cool idea, and that would bring truth back into the fray. That would be a scary thing to have to encounter in Trials of Osiris. Imagine you are in a Trials game. It's it's no heavy spawns on 4, but it's 3 to, or it's whatever the score is, so the heavy spawns. It's the third round in, so it's the third round in. Your team's up by a good margin, or maybe you're down by 1, and you see that somebody picks up heavy ammo and they have truth. Like, there's nowhere you can hide. Like, you're gonna have to really play around this. If it's on a map like Cauldron, you're gonna have to make sure that you stay behind some of these closed doors and nobody opens the doors. Or you have to do this, that, and the other to avoid getting hit by. You have to put your wall up. As a Titan, you gotta put a wall up as that rocket's coming straight at you. I think that, maybe giving the rocket like the ability to go around Titan barricades might be a bit much, because I know that Bungie doesn't like things that are just completely uncounterable, but maybe that's what Truth needs. Maybe Truth needs to be that uncounterable nuclear option in the Crucible. Like, if you get that rocket launcher, you have one rocket to make a play with. Truth should be the rocket that gets the kill, that tracks aggressively. If you're on an open map, like say Distant Shore, track somebody who's like on B and they're hiding behind that little rock thing right there on B. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. You see him, shoot truth, it goes up like a javelin, drops right down on top of him. And actually, that was another idea that I had. But instead of giving truth like this tracking, you could give it a javelin. Like if you play Call of Duty, okay? And I know Call of Duty, well, not Destiny. If you play Call of Duty and use the javelin, you can aim at certain places with the javelin, and it'll shoot that rocket up, and that rocket will come right down on top of that. And maybe that could be added as a secondary function, as like essentially a mortar. Right, so you can aim down sights, you toggle between your tracking versus your auto lock, or your lock on, your zone lock on. So let's say, I know, my entire team just died on B, so I know that the enemy team is going towards B. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna sit in the back here. I'm gonna lock on to B, or the ground right there on B. I'm gonna fire that rocket. It's gonna go way up in the air. All the enemy team jumps on it. Boom! That truth rocket drops right on top of them, nuking everybody below it. Now, enough for PvP stuff, because we can go all day for PvP. I want to talk about PvE and how truth can be made better in PvE. And this is a little bit of a tough one for me, because certain exotics are designed with PvE or PvP in mind. Mida Multi-Tool, we talked about a couple weeks ago, is a prime example of that. It was designed for PvP, in my opinion. Truth, designed for PvP, but let's attempt to make up something for PvE. Of course, it already has on tripod. And we talked about Broderick Foster's idea of giving it the ability to like lock on, but then really like build up a charge so you can shoot an absolute monstrosity of a rocket. And actually, I really like that idea of being, the champion nuker, because we have good, strong, champion killing capability, but I'm talking the champion killing nuke. Charge it up and maybe make the charge, 10 seconds to get that one hit kill on a champion and grandmaster. That way you have to plan it with your fire team. If you're against a barrier champion and you pull truth out and you do, you shoot it and you charge it up, blah, 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 because your teammate just stunned it. By the time you're done charging, that barrier champion has already put their barrier down, or they've already full healed or something like that. That way, again, you can plan with your team. Okay, guys, I'm locking onto him. All right, break his shield, right. now. And then they break the shield, you shoot the rocket, it just boom, blows that champion to high hell. I really like that. I really like that. I think another thing that Bungie could potentially do with Truth, you know, give it some sort of built-in anti-champion stuff. I know that we say this in every single episode, but just adding, say, Overload or Unstoppable or anti-barrier rockets would definitely help it, at least in the tiniest little bits. Anti-champion mods are good, so you could throw that in there. It's got tripod. I'm trying to think of something to build into tripod. Full disclosure here, I only thought of PvP stuff for the past couple days because Truth is a PvP rocket. But in terms of a you know, a PvE perk, have it built into the Void 3.0 kit somehow. You know, whether it's, you know, getting a kill with his weapon grants an overshield or grants all three, or, you know, something like that. Like, I think that could be a really nice option. You could give it suppressing rockets. It's got 3 of them, you know. Okay, I'm gonna shoot a suppressing rocket. There's your anti-overload. You could have a, you know, throw Unstoppable on there. It intrinsically stuns Unstoppables, but it also suppresses enemies, so it suppresses overloads. That could be a cool idea. I don't know. I'll leave it to you. What do you think Truth should do inside of PvE? Obviously, we had Broderick Foster's idea, which was a great idea, but what do you think that Truth should do inside of PvE? I'm out of ideas. I mean, Truth is just so bad. I want to see it. I want to see it get something really cool done to it. But yeah, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video. We're 21 minutes in, and I feel like I've just kind of rambled. So if you enjoyed it, drop a like. It helps the channel out tremendously. Don't hesitate to subscribe because we do daily content and conversations, discussions, stuff like that on this channel. And yeah, that being said, do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I will see y'all next time. Bye for now.